I'll give you two options. Do we think, yes or no, do we think Trump is already implementing Project 2025? Never heard of it, doesn't know the guy, doesn't want to know the guy, doesn't like anything about it, hates it, it's icky. Ooh, brother, ooh. Options are yes or no. Oh, my camera's froze. Stupid thing freezes all the time. That's pretty good timing right there.
Hey Daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Will Bird. This is Cold Beer Confessional. That was Linda Binda. Thank you for the resubscription and stuff. If you guys want to support the stream, please do that at coldbeer.fund. I could use your guys' help until I get some stuff back in motion since the flood, if at all possible. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's not like I got good news, but that's what we're up against for the next 4 years. So let's see what we got. Project 2025 promised to eliminate people in bureaucratic positions, non-political positions that didn't agree with conservative values or that would stand up to the president or that tell the president no, that would basically serve as the guardrails for democracy, right? They would be the people, like if you don't have yes men in all those positions, fire them and put loyalists in. It also promised to go after whistleblowers as well as the media that would work with whistleblowers. Not people that are just like spreading rumors to this or that or to whatever, but actual legit whistleblowers to have something to fear because they're coming out with truth about them. And then the media, the fake news media that would work with whistleblowers. So let's see what he announced today. This should be utterly terrifying to all Americans, and I don't know why it isn't. I know why it isn't, because they're going to jump up and scream like, well, those people did him wrong, so they need to get out of there. And the media has always been mean to Mr. Trump. And you mean the fake news media? But this should be utterly terrifying, and the right is celebrating it. Check out this address to the nation.
The deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington. Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First,
By the way, it was reported as this was a new video. I just saw a community note that said it was from 2023, but it still doesn't matter. It's Project 2025. Listen.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will...
What do you think he means when he says rogue bureaucrats? What are rogue bureaucrats? Those are anybody in a position that won't do exactly what he says. Like when he went to the DOJ after Barr resigned and wanted them to admit that they had found evidence of election interference and send a letter out to all state legislatures saying that they were investigating it, even though there was none.
Clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know we're wrong, or at least they must
He has a mouth is too small for his head or something.
have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied
He has such a small mouth.
to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been
Those are his fall guys. Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell. Those are his fall people.
tearing our country apart. We will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission
Imagine Trump being the truth guy.
to classify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliver
Government leakers who collude with the fake news. Do you mean whistleblowers? That's what you mean, right? When you say leakers who collude with the media.
deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies.
Probably none of this is going to happen, but
And they regulate
you know,
these companies, and then they want to
I think like 53%, 55%, something like that of his campaign promises he never made it. So
jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
So the community note said it didn't just. So Charlie Kirk said it. It says President Trump just released this plan to dismantle the deep state. This is the most important 3 minutes. Blah blah blah. But it says it actually was posted in 2023. But it really doesn't matter. It's the exact same context as Project 2025. Some of the worst tenets of Project 2025, and people are like, he doesn't even know that guy. He's never even been part of that. What do you mean? He's not. That's not him. Just stupid shit. I don't know. What are you guys doing? Ryan just texted me and said, I've got to end early. Well, she didn't tell me to end early. I need to end early because I got to go home and work on the internet. How's your day been going, guys? We have some angry people that are very upset with the railroad currently. And let's check that out. Instead of tree huggers, they called them rock huggers. I heard somebody say that earlier today. They are very, very upset with the railroad trying to rebuild the railroad currently. I supported Trump for 2016, 2020, then finally woke up and I fucking hate Trump. I guess I can just say it.
rebuilding process so a rail company can resume operations through the Nolichucky River Gorge is causing some concern among people who use the river for recreation. The company CSX Rail is removing blown-out rail infrastructure from portions of the Nolichucky Gorge. However, some local kayakers and rafters are questioning their methods. News Channel 11's Jeff
Don't say sound. Of course, I didn't play sound for the commercial.
Keeling explains.
As you can see, work is ongoing that should be happening at this point.
Local kayakers and rafters like Jacob Hauser.
So this is where the park used to be down the road from my house. I've showed you this just from the other side multiple times, right? But this is where the park used to be.
Appreciate CSX Rail's removal of blown-out infrastructure from the Nolichucky River, but they're concerned about other CSX activity in the Nolichucky Gorge.
They've already removed 2 acres of stone, and that's just here. This is going on up in State Line Shoals. This is
2 acres of stone.
Shoals. This is
2 acres of stone. I don't know what static means. You mean the wind in the background?
Going on the river left side, which is actually Yancey.
By the way, the entire river has changed. Nothing's the same. It's a completely different fucking river. The channels are not the same. The rapids are not the same. The locations are not the same. The sandbars are not the same. The rocks are not. Nothing is the same. Nothing.
County up in Poplar.
The Army Corps of Engineers is reviewing CSX's emergency repair and recovery actions. They're working with CSX, the Forest Service,
So the Army Corps of Engineers already approved this plan.
and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Now the whitewater rafting industry is watching, including American Whitewater National Stewardship Director Kevin Colburn.
I'm profoundly concerned. I've seen it firsthand, and there's massive amounts of removal of the riverbed.
The Army.
Yeah, but where? So they're making it sound like the river was just there, and the railroad's like, we're going to dig up the river. None of this was here. And not to mention that, none of it's bedded. So the next high water event we have, those rocks are going to be further down the river. Because when you have rocks in a river, they've probably been there for fucking hundreds of years, right? They're bedded in, right? That's what makes them so... Have you ever went to pull a rock and it's almost like it got suction on it? Like you can't get it out?
Corps' Nashville district told WJHL the multi-agency work is designed, quote, to ensure the emergency repairs for the rail line are conducted in an environmentally sensitive manner, end quote. But advocates are skeptical right now.
We will be monitoring the situation to make sure.
So I watched an economist today say that there's going to be a Q4 boom in what makes the economy look like it's doing well. It's going to be a lot of people buying stuff, and that's probably going to go through the roof. But then Q1 of next year is probably going to die off. Q1, Q2, because they're expecting these tariffs to come in, and they're wanting to buy as much inventory or supplies or whatever as they can before those things come through. I don't know.
Sure that the sensitive,
I'm not an economist.
Very pristine sections up in the gorge are not harmed like we see here.
Colburn says short-term decisions could impact the Nolichucky's recreational viability, a multi-million-dollar local benefit.
New rail bed made of river rock.
And its environmental
So they're building back where the railroad, they got 30-some miles of track that are just gone.
character for decades.
If we don't do this right, it could impact this river for hundreds of years. Many generations of people that could enjoy the river as it is now, if we just slow down a little bit, get the agencies involved that really understand how to protect recreation, how to protect the environment, get the public involved, and then move forward.
In Unicoi County, Jeff Keeling, News
So this is just down the road from my house, is the reason I'm showing it.
Channel 11.
News Channel 11 reached out to CSX for comment. They said in a statement, quote, CSX, in close collaboration with the Army Corps of Engineers, state and federal agencies, is committed to ensure
I think they have like 10 agencies on ground for oversight right now.
the 40 miles of rail and 2 bridges in this region returns to full operational capacity following historic flood damage caused by Hurricane Helene with minimal environmental impact. You can read the full.
I'm not just saying trust the company. Obviously, companies lie. They'll do what they can right, to turn profits for the shareholders. But the Army Corps of Engineers is there, plus 10 different agencies for oversight. They've been issued a permit. So I heard they're planning a protest. These kayakers spend all day floating down the river taking pictures of the guys on the equipment. And I heard they plan on protesting this weekend.
Statement on our website, WJHL.com.
That's not the only story I wanted to show you. I was on the news. I don't know if you guys know that.
Mom signed up for AAR.
Let's see if I can find it.
I didn't think I was ready yet until I started.
Let's see if I can find this. Hold on. I had a cameo appearance on the news. Yeah, I don't. Jesus Christ, if they block the road, I might have a fucking meltdown. Is it this one? No, that would be too old. Oakland. Oh, right here. You guys ready for a cameo? I think it's a video, right? Yeah. I have to watch an ad. Atsuko, go ahead and say sound. Yeah, I'm not playing the sound on the ad. You busted me. Why don't you go eat some watermelon or something, Atsuko? Jesus. That looks good. What's that? Oh, just Food City. Makes you fucking hungry.
Changes after some businesses in our region have seen some changes after Hurricane Helene.
That includes in Unicoi County. Some of the major contributors to that county's economy have been impacted heavily by flooding. News Channel 11's Catherine Simpson shows us how outdoor recreation in Unicoi is dealing with.
This is the road to USA Raft Adventure. It's one of Irwin's.
So this is where the stop sign is. If you've been watching my TikTok videos, this is where the stop sign is by the church.
Biggest rafting outfits and a great example of the tourism economy here in Unicoi County. But owners say it may be difficult to reopen in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene.
All right. See if you guys can spot me. Let me take it on the chat. It's going to be hard. I'm just going to be honest with you. So it's behind the main camera. Where's the chat and backer? There it is. All right, here we go. By the way, they blocked the road for almost 10 minutes to set up for this shot. So they could put a camera out and have her in this side-by-side going across this washout. By the way, look how bad this fucking washout is. This is the washout I've been showing you guys. They blocked the road for like 10 minutes setting up for this washout, or for this one shot. Then blocked the road while she went and got her camera back.
Aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Managing partner Matt Moses took me.
That was me. That was my cameo. I'm driving this side-by-side back here. Did you guys see me? Did you spot me? Pretty fucking good, huh?
Helene. Managing partner Matt Moses took me back to the rafting company's home base on the banks of the Nolichucky River, accessible now only by golf cart as Helene washed out the road along.
So while she was taking this is also me. Hold on. See this second set of tires you can barely see back here? I'm driving that side by side.
Road, along with several new cabins and upgraded facilities.
We're talking in the millions of what it would take to rebuild back to what we.
This is the guy who owns the property right beside us. So this is the railroad's activities across the river from us because we're like next door neighbors.
Or were.
Moses told me he's working hard to reopen the resort, even if it's smaller than it was.
That's their cabins and stuff. A lot of their shit got washed out foundations. Why not?
Back the 20 year-round employees that have been out of work for over a month now.
That's my greatest pain right now.
So they built this road down through here. They're gathering rocks here. They're taking it up. That's the rebuilding of the tracks across the river.
Is those hardworking people that want to be working, but I've got no jobs to offer.
Moses isn't alone. Irwin Utilities Economic Development Director Austin Finch says the tourism economy.
That's our train trestle. So the water was so high at this train trestle so this is like I think it's like a 5-foot wall. The wall, you could still see the wall, but the tracks are obviously at the bottom of this. The tracks were underwater.
Represents $17 million of spending in the county each year and 100.
Wait a second. Is that me riding my one wheel? Do I have multiple cameos in this video?
The tourism economy.
Wait, who's going there? Is that me?
$1 million of spending in the county each
That might be a guy on a mobility scooter. I don't know.
year and 160 jobs.
No, that sector represents.
I don't know. I can't claim that one.
The tourism sector represented a major chance for economic growth in the county, and that's kind of at risk at this point.
It's not just folks along the river suffering. Irwin Outdoor Supplies in downtown
It did kind of look like me, but I was wearing a black shirt, so that had to be. It could have been that day.
hasn't suffered physical damage, but owner Terry Wise says the cancellation of the Apple Festival and the fallout from Helene are still impacting his business.
It's just really slow, and part of that I think is because of the business.
This guy owns Uncle Johnny's Hostel, which is like it's a hostel for like hikers on the Appalachian Trail. So the bridge that collapsed is part of the Appalachian Trail. The trail comes down out of the mountains, crosses that bridge, and goes back up in the mountains. And at that bridge crossing of the Appalachian Trail, he has a hostel there, right? So he can come stay for a night, a few nights. They run shuttles into town. And he also owns the outdoor store where I took Atsuko. She like posed with Sasquatch and bought a couple of shirts and shit.
That I'm in, nobody's going out there and hiking the trail right now.
Despite the challenges, both Moses.
Okay, so this is our campground now. So this is our office. I guess that's. Hold on, I'll see if I can enhance this image a little bit. So this is our office that's gutted, right? The first floor is gone. All of our cabins down here are gone. My camper's basically back here. So you can't really see it. It's like behind the office, but that white there is basically our camper. And then this is all of our riverfront that was destroyed. We lost maybe 30 to 40 feet of riverfront. Like it used to be like it sloped down from the parking lot, then a flat spot for campsites and picnic tables. And then it sloped down gently to the water. All that's gone. It's just like a fucking cliff off into the water right now.
And Wise are working hard to find the silver linings. For example, Moses says the new
There's where the railroad's working. That's what I was trying to show you. That's across from our campground, basically. She's probably actually on our property right there, but that's where they've cut this road down here and they're mining all this rock. This is the upper part where they're working. They're also working down the park, which is what the last video was about.
path of the Nolichucky may make for bigger rapids upstream and more family-friendly rapids downstream.
And that's looking down towards the train trestle. I can't believe how open this is before. It was like you could only see parts of the train trestle before, and now you can see the whole fucking thing. You can watch the road coming in. You can see everything. It's just wild.
And new customers.
We're going to find the wins in here because that's what we do. That's what we do.
We're going to what?
Customers.
We're going to find the wins in here because that's what
Find the wins?
we do. That's what we do in East Tennessee. Certainly what
I tried to get Atsuko in the river, and she
we
refused.
do in Appalachia. We're going to find the wins.
He's going to find the wins, guys.
And this Friday and Saturday is
So they're collectively mad about the railroad rebuilding the railroad, but the railroads and their business is being shut down. But the railroad also is rebuilding our road, but you don't hear them mention that very often. I don't know. The whole thing's a mess. Support the GoFundMe. Help rebuild the Nolichucky Gorge Campground. Share that if you can. Even if you can't support it, share it. That'd be cool. We'd appreciate it. Send it out to people, share it. Hopefully get some donations to go towards the campground and rebuilding it. This is our home. I'd like to see it survive. But all the reservations were canceled and refunded. There's no way that it'll ever be open before probably summer of next year, even though we're living there. The only reason I'm really living there is because we're working on it. So there you go. I think I already did share it on Facebook, but yeah, I can share it again. There you go. Support the campground. It was Kenneth. You think? Dude, I've got a video. I don't know. Should I do this? Dude, we went into Kenneth's cabin finally, okay? He had until the last day of October to come get his stuff. We went into Kenneth's cabin, and so we were making fun of him before because, look, the situation was bad, but I was, like, traveling in every day. You guys watched me. I was traveling every day with food, water, gas for the generators. You know, we had running water. We had generators I brought in there. I brought all these supplies in. He treated it like it was his plane crashed on a deserted island, right? He was like tying cloths around his head and fucking washing his clothes in the river, and like he went feral, honestly. Like he's a fucking psychopath. When he started drinking, he went feral. So we finally went into his cabin, and I had to record it just to like keep everything together or whatever. And this dude had 30 cases of water. He had 43 jars of peanut butter. He had over 100 rolls of toilet paper. 4 trash bags, contractor trash bags full of paper towels. Like he was hoarding supplies. And the whole reason, and like, there was no sense in hoarding supplies. So when it first happened, our road was so muddy. No, he wasn't a fucking prepper. He got it from the people who brought supplies for all of us. Like, he didn't prep shit. He just stole it. So our road was so muddy, you couldn't get to our campground, but the neighboring campground had easier access. So their office was undamaged. So we put everything in their office and told people, like, hey, you can go over there for whatever you need, right? It's not theirs, right? It's all of ours, and we're just holding it there. So if you need something from our campground, just go over there and get it. No one will stop you. No one will say anything. Well, he did. God damn, he did. He went up there and he had all the shit. He probably had 30 of those 1-pound propane tanks and just had one heater, right? He got cases and cases and cases and cases of shit. Stacked it under his bed, behind his bed, up a whole wall. Fucking like insane shit. And like everybody else was just going what you might need for like a day or two, right? And then go back and grab the next, because nobody needed to hoard it. There was plenty of shit. We actually had to turn people away from bringing in supplies, right? Like food and shit like that. We had to turn people away. We just had too much. And this motherfucker was over there just hoarding shit. Had like 30 fucking piss jugs, nasty motherfucker. Where he kept all that food in there, like mice got in there and shit. One of the big things the owner didn't want was like open flame. That's why she's like, hey, okay, it's time to move back to your camper whenever over the next few weeks or whatever. But he was like burning candles and fucking oil lamps and shit in there. Like, it's a wonder we didn't have a fire. That dude is fucking wild. Wild, I tell you. Wild. Yeah. He is what he is. I don't know. He went back to posting about Jesus and shit. He got real fucking quiet when we fucked up every plan he ever had and took his camper away from him. Like, I don't know. The dude's crazy. He couldn't have used that shit. He couldn't have used all that shit if we wouldn't have had a road for like a whole year. Like it's just him and like this little bitty fucking annoying ass dog, right? It's not like he has a family or some shit. It's just him and this little annoying ass dog. And then to beat it all, that was one of his biggest complaints, was that, hold on just a second. One of his biggest complaints was how fucking, how arthritic he was, right? And that his hands was swollen up and he had to move his stuff up to the cabin he was staying in. But then it's because he had a goddamn tractor and trailer. It took us, 4 trips in a pickup truck to empty the cabin of supplies. And I took his personal shit down in a side-by-side. So it wasn't even his personal shit. It was just supplies that he had stolen from next door, when no sense to it, right? How much TP could you use in fucking 6 months, much less in a few days? Like, it was just, I don't know. It was insane. The dude went feral. So we had like this group chat that was going, we were all making fun of him because he was like reading these survival books and talking about how his Viking heritage made him good at surviving disasters. Like, the dude is fucking insane. He needs to stay the fuck away. That's what he needs to do. But he didn't come into He didn't do a whole lot, so we're good there. I want to see what this is. Sorry, this is unrelated. I want to see what this is. I don't know what it is, but it was suggested to me, so now I'm interested. How reality TV houses are built to break people?
January 11th, 1973, over 10 million people tuned in to watch footage recorded from 35 Wooddale Lane. The advertisement for the show, An American Family, featured only the cameraman pointed at film stock of the house.
The family was filmed as they went about their daily routine.
Over the course of 12 episodes,
This is the first reality TV show?
completely fell apart, and the drama of their downfall made for exceptionally riveting television.
You know there's a problem. What's your problem? I'd like to have you move out. It's just like that.
Yet none of the events of the show, the infidelity, the divorce, none of it was scripted. The Loud family was instructed to live their lives as if there was no camera present. They were to do nothing differently than they would ordinarily. So, on the surface, nothing about the family or the house was changed for the show. Yet, the house becomes a really critical part of the show's plot. It provides the unrealistic expectations that the family's trying to live up to, especially the matriarch, Pat Loud, who's preoccupied with keeping it orderly. Its oppressiveness prompts the eldest son, Lance, to flee for New York. It also establishes certain production limitations for the show, like the microphones that had to be located in the chandelier above the dining room table, which confined all the important conversations to happen underneath it. If someone didn't want to be filmed, like when Pat told Bill that she wanted a divorce, she just went into a room and closed the door. But if family members or anyone visiting the house were moving about,
I'm just curious what this is. Is it like trying to keep up with the Joneses kind of deal?
to capture it. But the crew was supposed to minimize any disruptions to the natural course of the family's life. Just observe and record like a fly on the wall. Technological limitations at the time, though, it meant that equipment was kind of scattered. A full psychological experiment.
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
Today's highly
Okay, there's Survivor.
scripted reality shows involve wild scenarios that they just
100%
can't
scripted.
be staged in normal, unaltered houses anymore.
It's a house like...
These need specially built structures to carry out the self-imposed limitations for setups like groups of strangers that can't leave or living together and competing. They look normal-ish on screen, but their floor plans reveal the careful engineering and manipulation and the control of the participants that live here.
Oh, is it like break people, like the cameras are already on you, so you like fucking go crazy inside, right?
Weeks on end.
Maybe.
In any other context, these could be read as torture chambers.
Okay, yeah.
For a group of
That makes
15 folks
sense.
in Audio 18 lot in 2 rooms. This layout forces interaction, and that stokes any latent potential for conflict by denying anyone privacy. Even the angles of the walls and the wood wall at the entrance, it kind of forces you to pick a side and then thrusts you into view of the cameras, which we see in the second episode when Izzy can.
I have noticed. I guess where I don't know if it's just me where I've like built homes and shit. I have noticed all the fucking weird angles. Like they always have these like acute angles on all the fucking walls instead of being like 90 degrees, and it's so like you can't hide from the camera. Like you can't get in a corner to hide from the camera. They can record everywhere.
Confronts Jared awkwardly right next to the rest of the group.
Yes, let me tell you, I don't want you going home.
The decor even reinforces this with discordant elements being thrust together, divided by just a lightning bolt. This to me feels like the constant goal of the entire design, reinforcing division, encapsulation, and disruption, both physically and psychologically. The destabilizing interior furnishing and design, it continues into the bedroom, where everything is flipped upside down, which I don't think could be any more on the nose. But then there's just the fact that there's a huge disparity between the have-not and the head of household bedrooms. The have-not's room is full of insults and foul food item-shaped sleeping surfaces that are designed to wear on your mental health over time. Sleeping in the head of household room, on the other hand, is the coveted.
So they're like fucking torturing people, basically.
Each week's competition. It's a luxurious retreat, knowing that they're absolutely private. It's even acoustically isolated from the other spaces and separated by an airlock. It's where individuals dish their feelings about the other contestants on the show. The room's disconnected from the other spaces then leads to paranoia in others that might be thinking about what's happening inside. Where the people living here, called house guests, have no access to this space. Yet you can feel it as a constant presence of spaces. By thinking about what's happening inside, what are they saying about me? But all of this entire plan, is surrounded on all sides, even in between all the spaces, by the production crew and cameras. The people
That is crazy. They have all these like there's people living in the walls basically.
Here called house guests have no access to this space, room or another space. You never know if someone's in there, so you have to assume that there always is someone there. It's almost literally the stuff of nightmares and feelings of oppressive control from the space around you. Absolute containment, coupled.
But like most of the people go in there and they put on fake personas to come out to be like influencers when they're done. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like the crazier guests that go on like Big Brother and shit. They usually do something fucking wild or crazy or stuff they wouldn't normally do, even putting on roles of being like racist or sexist or whatever. So they come out and they can be like influencers when they come out.
Coupled with absolute exposure, luxury coupled with discomfort, access to knowledge coupled with restricting information, that is a recipe for undermining the emotional stability of your occupants. Architects that want to do this to people have been taking notes on this for years. Where Big Brother is designed to create unstable, multivalent alliances while sowing the seeds of division. The show Love Was Blind brings people together with the intention of them pairing off in matrimony. And while that sounds more benevolent odds, these are small, soundproof rooms where the participants sit on these plush couches and then they talk to their potential partners through a wall. These pods are the heart of the show, the places where connections are made between people and where the show's central premise takes place. The environment of
I've never seen this show.
cues forces them to focus entirely on the conversation, to be able to listen more carefully and to just express themselves more openly than they would otherwise. But this isolation away from other people also heightens the emotional stakes of the experiences. The blank wall that people are actually talking to, it strips away the usual social crutches of body language and facial expressions that we'd be gathering visually. But it's also like a psychological mirror that reflects back to you your own emotions and projections. This all leads to actually having a heightened sense of connection with the other person, but it also creates space for misunderstandings and miscommunications. Participants actually fill in the gaps of this information that they're not gathering with their own assumptions and biases, which are coming from complete zones.
I just want to see the fucking what's the end of this?
In fact, it's the advanced technology, competitors, and millions watching at home nearby. But I noticed that in larger contexts,
I don't know what the Circle is. Is the Circle a show you guys watch?
Here in Chicago and a bit from Milwaukee. But the original building, it's been in England ever since the show began, and it only moved to Atlanta, Georgia for the last couple of seasons. Either way, there's this strange lack of specificity that means it's emotionally exposed in a building that features zero sense of place or local connection. That all sounds like a nightmare that is way too close to reality.
But I think most of them are aspiring to be actresses, actors, or influencers. I think that's why they get on there. Hell, Theo Vaughn was on fucking one back in the day.
When An American Family first aired in 1973, documentaries at the time that were popular were mostly focused on large world events. Top two in the ratings were All in the Family and The Waltons. These kinds of shows connected with the anxiety that Americans were feeling at the time, with the kinds of changes that they were feeling in their home life. Even today, 50 years after that reality TV show experiment, the collision of those genres, documentaries focused on suburban families, is still
I'm going to try to get on Big Brother.
Resonates with audiences around the globe. We're watching these non-actors in their homes having intense encounters between each other, while we too were sitting in our homes. In this scenario, the TV screen, it's kind of like a mirror. It's not so much just a portal into some unrelated fictional fantasy world. I think it's no coincidence then that the cameras in Big Brother, they're disguised behind mirrors too. Of course, we all know that the level of reality TV is totally dubious, but I think like Fargo's insistence that it's based on true events, or the willful suspension of reality that we have in things like professional wrestling, I think reality TV is immersive in a unique way.
It's real to me, damn it.
And the home is an important piece of that equation. The houses of reality TV play out some of the most nightmarish spaces imaginable, while others on the surface seem like blissful, aspirational rewards of the suburban dream, and sometimes they're both at the same time. Clearly, the architecture and design of reality TV shows aren't just backdrops. They're powerful tools for shaping behavior overall, influencing emotions, and orchestrating all sorts of interactions. It's fascinating how spaces can manipulate outcomes and reveal deeper truths about human nature. If there's a broader takeaway in this, though, I think it's that environments that we inhabit daily wield the exact same kind of influence. To better understand underlying principles...
Oh, like schools and jails. Look at the fact that you would think this is good. Who the fuck? So this says the 2024 election had only women voted. Boys, thanks for showing up. Seriously. I'm going to protect women, whether they want it or not. I'm going to protect them. On January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. Fluoride is industrial waste associated with arthritis, bone fractures. You know this is going to be bad, right? And you better find some other way to get, especially children, fluoride back into their water. And then they can't even take the win. Look at this shit.
He's not inaugurated. He's not in office. Just because he won the quote-unquote election, there's a long list of things to go. And I'll tell you what sets off my spidey senses about all of this. They are all acting fairly reasonable.
Yeah, because we're not the rights. Literally, her concession speech or her concession phone call was about the peaceful transfer of power.
And it's for one of two reasons. One, they are either terrified and they know they're fucking caught and they know that they've got to step in line or they might get, that's their only chance to not get held accountable. Or two, they have a backup plan to do something terrible to Trump. Now remember,
or we just respect the way it works.
These people fucking tried to kill Trump. The fact that they're calling him and saying, hey, you know, let's do this civil and shit, that's so out of character for them. It makes me think they have another plan.
So out of character. That it's so out of character that the Democratic loser just conceded and talks about the peaceful transfer of power.
And they know that they've got to step in line or they might get, that's their only chance to not get held accountable. Or two, they have a backup plan to do something terrible to Trump. Now remember, these people fucking tried to kill Trump. The fact that they're calling him and saying, hey, you know, let's do this civil and shit, that's so out of character for them. It makes me think they have another plan.
So were Mariah. Mariah grew up on well water and never had fluoride. And that's why her teeth are fucking falling apart. and she had to have them replaced.
That thing I sent you today that compares the number of people that voted in 2020 versus the number of people that voted in 2024.
It's so weird. It's almost like people didn't show up.
And in 2016.
Sure does look strange.
And in 2012. Have you seen it, Jamie?
Yeah.
But they also can't explain why Trump had more votes.
Crazy. You look at it and you go, there's...
In 2020 than he did in 2024.
Because it doesn't seem to make any sense. Because this
is a lot of people fucking checked out. There it is.
Elections ever. I think everybody's pretty aware of that, and everybody is very dug in on their side. The left, he's Hitler. The right, he's saving us. And so more people vote.
Not everybody. That's people online.
Voted at least the indication.
A lot of people are like, "Fuck this place."
People voted in 2020, if not more. Probably more people voted. But let's look at the numbers. Like, look at the difference in how many people voted for Biden in 2020. It's unprecedented. It's way higher than any other time since 2012, and I'm sure probably before that there was less people back then, right? So if you go back to when I was a kid, there was only like 200 million people in this country.
Yeah, and to be clear, 2012 and 2016 were not low turnout years.
No, they're all
Like,
consistent.
yeah.
This is what's crazy. They're consistent. Look, they're all like 60. Look at where the number is. It's all like 60.
Yeah, many more people voted, and for both sides. For both sides in fucking 2020.
5 million.
It's almost like there was something crazy going on where a lot more people were home, a lot more people were tuned into it, a lot more people were watching it online, a lot more people were contacted to go vote. It's weird.
Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the same every fucking time except 2020. In 2020, it goes way the fuck up.
Yeah, Mariah brushes like insane amount of brushing.
Look at it. It's like 80 what? Is it 82? Is that what it was?
It's like 81 and change.
81. Yeah. So it goes up a fucking sizable chunk.
All we had to do was turn out a normal amount of fucking voters for the left and it would have fucking won. Oh, it's insane. It's insanity, guys. It's insanity. Happens to the best of them. You'll have that on these big jobs, I guess. No way. Hold on. That video's already down? Is it true? It looks like it's implying that into the state political spotlight after he's hosted by the president. Why are there no results?
I'm a white dude for Harris. Of course I voted early, or as my wife likes to call it, prematurely. I'm a white dude.
It won't even let me search his name? Something should come up, right? So the video I'm looking for says, this is not a joke. Nick Fuentes, white supremacist and anti-Semitic leader Nick Fuentes has been thrust into the state political spotlight after he was hosted by the president. Is this back at like Kanye West shit? Or is this like a recent shit? Because he went with Kanye West to that dinner and Trump claims that he had no idea he was coming.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. By now you all know Donald Trump won last night. Not something we anticipated. Of course, it was always a possibility. There was some erosion that we saw in focus groups, a couple people here, a couple people there, as I mentioned, that had voted for Trump in 2016, voted for Biden, and then went back to Trump. I think it was more than just that erosion, obviously, from what we're seeing from the numbers. One thing this proves, though, is that Trump was lying about the election in 2020. Because if the Democrats consistently commit election fraud, then how did he win last night, right? Explain that, MAGA. Explain how they just decided.
Well, they already did it to Destiny. Destiny's like, I can't wait for them to explain why the fix was in, then it wasn't in, and now it's not in, but sometimes it is. Sometimes we cheat, and other times we don't. Jimmy Kimmel mentioned it. Now it's just because they fixed it. You can't cheat now. How did they fix it when Biden was president for 4 years after he allegedly cheated?
oh, we're going to let this one slide. We're not going to cheat in this election. So you're all full of shit, MAGA, when it comes to that. So I want to talk in this video about what happened, how it happened, where we go from here, what we can expect. Republicans have gained control of the Senate. That was pretty much a given. There were a lot of Democratic seats that were up for election in this cycle. They were very tenuous, to say the least. So in West Virginia, Joe Manchin stepped aside. He stepped down. That seat was always going to go red. So Jim Justice, a Republican, won that seat. In Montana, John Tester was very much on the edge. We kind of knew that one was not going to hold because it was amazing that a Democrat had held that seat in Montana for so long. I mean, it is a very red state. So he lost. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown lost. I thought maybe he had the better chance of holding on to his seat. He seemed to play well with Republicans, and they seemed to like him. But right now, there is a sentiment across the globe of anti-incumbency. People are just done with the old guard. They want to bring in the new. And, a lot of that has to do with the economy, post-COVID stuff, some other things going on, just a rise in autocracy around the globe. So that's where we're at as far as, the bad news about the Senate. There were a couple of good pieces of news about the Senate. Arizona candidate Carrie Lake lost, luckily, so she is out. And I would say at this point, she's probably out for good, because I don't think that the Republican Party is going to ride that horse anymore, so to speak, because she's lost. She's proved herself to be a loser. She lost in the governor's race. She lost in the Senate race. So I don't think that her future is bright in the Republican Party. Could be wrong, as we've seen now, especially with last night's results, memories are short. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, she's out. In Maryland, Angela Alsobrooks won. She is a black woman. Lisa Blunt Rochester of Delaware also won. So we now, for the first time in history, have 2 black women in the Senate. Previously, the only black woman, I believe, in the Senate had been Kamala Harris. So this is good for representation, to get new voices, a different opinion, and different value set in there. I am not a big identity politics type person, but I do think you need to have different representatives and get different viewpoints and just have different life experiences brought to the table. North Carolina governor, that was a major race that everybody was watching. The Democrat Josh Stein won, and he won, I believe, last time I looked, was by double digits over his competitor, which you guys will remember is the scandal-ridden, psycho Mark Robinson.
Oh, shit.
For grabs. Some California seats are looking promising, so we'll see that could hand control of the House to the Democrats, which would be the only thing standing between Donald Trump and his psychos and the rest of us. So let's pray for that. In Delaware, Democrat Sarah McBride won. She is now the first transgender member of Congress. So again, representation is important, and it's important to expose people to others who they may not have ever been exposed to. Maybe her being in Congress, I know this is probably a stretch, right? Me just being overly optimistic. Maybe some Republican members of Congress will get to know her and go, oh, you mean transgender people are just people. They're just normal. Right? They just want to live their lives. They're not hurting anybody. Let's hope that that happens. As for amendments that were on ballots throughout the country, there were a bunch of states that were looking at abortion. One, Florida in particular, was considering a weed amendment to make that legal in the state of Florida. So here's what happened. Numerous states enshrined abortion rights into their constitution last night. Florida did not. Florida said no to the weed amendment, and even though 58% of the voters in Florida voted for the abortion amendment, they did not win, because the Republicans, being typical Republicans, they gave it a 60% threshold. So it wasn't like, oh, you got the majority that agree with this. No, it is minority rule, always with Republicans. So even though almost 60% of that state wanted to enshrine abortion rights beyond what they currently have, which is a ridiculous 6-week ban, they said no. So have fun with that, Florida people. A Florida reporter, this was very interesting. A Florida reporter yesterday said that as they were talking to people who were leaving the polling places, most of them admitted, yeah, I voted for Trump and I voted yes on the abortion ballot measure. So these people didn't want to go on camera. They were worried about backlash. But I mean, it shows you the breakdown in their thinking, right? I care about women's rights. I think a woman should have a right to choose, but I'm going to vote for the guy who installed 3 different members on the Supreme Court who took away that right. And the guy who has said, and his running mate has said, we want to take away that right on a federal level. So this is the disconnect in their brain. So we'll see what happens. But in Maryland, they agreed to an abortion amendment, 74% to 26%. It wasn't even close. New York, they had kind of an abortion issue on the ballot. It was about equal rights, and again, passed with no problem. 71% voted yes, 29%.
This is the first presidential election since Roe v. Wade as well. So you think that would be a referendum on that? It doesn't seem that way.
They had abortion rights amendments on their ballots. They all voted yes. Arizona, 63 to 37%. Colorado, 62 to 39%. Missouri, 52 to 48%. So it was a little closer there. Montana and Nevada, last I checked, their results were not in yet, but it was looking good for the pro-choice side. South Dakota, they did not pass their abortion amendment. In Nebraska, they had 2 measures on their ballot. So one of them banned abortion after the first trimester. The other one had no length of time. So the people of that state in Nebraska went with that one, with the first trimester abortion ban. So after that, no abortions. So here's how we got here. I think that we cannot overlook, or we can't put too much weight into the fact that we had bomb threats for the first time in our country at polling sites. So Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and...
No, Trump said that he thinks it's off the table now because the Supreme Court, but then he said, we'll see what happens.
Pennsylvania all had bomb threats issued. These were made via email, and they were determined to have come from a Russian email server. So we literally have Russia, again, meddling in our elections, and the majority of these threats were made at black polling locations, places where the black residents, the number of black residents is very high in these locations. Not a coincidence, right? We had 38 bomb threats in Georgia alone throughout the day. And the reason I say we need to underline this and take this seriously is that a lot of...
The reason nobody can believe Trump on abortion is because he's super fucking inconsistent. He doesn't even know what he's saying.
Polling places were evacuated because they didn't know what to make of them at first. They didn't know if these were serious threats. So think about it. You had so much turnout yesterday, huge amount of turnout on election day. people were evacuated. How many of those people either just chose not to come back or couldn't come back? Maybe they took off on their lunch break to vote. They had to get back to work, right? Or they had to get home to the kids or whatever. I mean, how many thousands of people of all of those places, again, 38 polling locations in Georgia alone. Think about that. If you had, 1,000, 2,000 at each of those places, how many more?
Yeah, especially when he says, oh, well, the Supreme Court handled that, so it's not an issue right now, so I don't think it'll come across my desk. And then they're like, well, but what if it does? Oh, we'll see. Yeah, that's pretty clear. We'll see.
In Pennsylvania, I want to point this out because I think this was a huge problem. There were massive, massive lines of young people waiting in line to vote in Philadelphia. They had at one place only 10 machines, and in the middle of the day, the wait was anywhere between 90 minutes to 2 hours. By that evening, it was a 4 to 5 hour wait at Lehigh, right by Lehigh University. So you had a bunch of young people waiting to vote, a lot of them for the first time. An MSNBC reporter was out there interviewing them. And so many of them, yes, it's my first time. Yes, I'm voting for Kamala. How many of them waited 4 to 5 hours? It wasn't until last night, after almost all the voting was done, that they brought in more machines. Why are we not more proactive about this? When they saw that people were waiting an hour and a half to 2 hours, that's when you bring in more machines. You don't wait till it grows to 4 to 5 hours. So unbelievable. Just failures all around. There were all kinds of games that the Republicans played in the lead up to this election with purging people from voter rolls. Some of them were residents of the United States. They were American citizens, and that was proven. And then they had a hell of a time trying to get back on the voter rolls. And how many of them just said, forget it. I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to try to fight this, right? So Democrats, you need to take off the gloves.
He didn't even know which way he voted on the Florida abortion ban.
Republicans are not playing fair, and we need to start responding in kind. That's all I'm going to say. So here's what we can expect going forward, right? This is a nightmare. It's a national nightmare. I said the other day, it felt like it was Christmas Eve. Now it feels like the nightmare before Christmas. So here's what we can expect. The Republicans are going to overplay their hand. I am 100% certain of that. They feel like they have been handed a huge mandate by the American people. They feel that they are.
During the October 1st vice presidential debate, Trump posted on his social media platform on Truth Social that he would veto a national abortion ban. Quote, everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and, in fact, would veto it. This came just weeks after Trump repeatedly declined to say during the presidential debate with Kamala Harris whether he would veto a national abortion ban if he elected. Sidestep the question.
They are invincible, and they are going to go to the extreme. We think we've seen them extreme before. We haven't seen anything yet. They're going to overplay their hand, and that is going to help in the midterm election. I know that's 2 years away. I know it's like, oh my God, we got to hold on for 2 years. Yes, we do. We have no choice. Here's the thing. We saw.
Then J.D. Vance went on an interview and said, oh, Trump would veto that. And then Trump commented to that and said, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I don't think he was speaking for me. So are you going to veto it or not? What the fuck are you doing? He doesn't even know what he's fucking saying.
We lived through this, right? In 2016, we heard people say over and over again, yeah, I voted for Trump, but I don't believe everything he says. He's full of bluster. He just talks. He's not going to do all these crazy things. Do you guys remember a Twitter account called Trump Regrets? I know from a lot of your comments, you're not on Twitter. There was a Twitter account called Trump Regrets, and it was filled with thousands and thousands of people.
In this very first year as president, or maybe when he was on the campaign trail, he said that he was pro-life with exceptions, but also added that there needs to be some form of punishment for women seeking abortions. Like he has no idea what the fuck he's saying. It's different every time he talks about it.
People who voted for Trump in 2016 because he was an unknown commodity at that time, and they immediately or sometime thereafter regretted their decision. And they voiced that regret on Twitter. They tagged him and told him that they regretted voting for him. Or they just posted on Twitter saying, oh my God, I so regret my decision. We're going to see that again. I guarantee we are going to see that again. Because as I've said before, we now have young people who did not experience everything in his first term. They were here on Earth, but they were in elementary school or in middle school. They did not experience it in the same way that you and I did. They didn't have the horror of waking up every day wondering, oh my God, what the hell did he do today? Who is he hurting today? Who is he killing today in the case of COVID? So these young voters are going to have a huge wake-up call. I think a lot of them made their decision at the last minute. A lot of them made it based on the Joe Rogan endorsement. And here's my belief. I believe there are two types of Trump voters. I think there are the uninformed and there are the misinformed. The uninformed are the people who don't pay attention to politics. I know many of them. They go off of vibes. They get their news from their friends, their family members, their own little bubble who agrees with them, and they trust, and that's what they go off. They do no research. They don't watch the news. They have no clue. Then there's the misinformed group that does watch the news, but all they want.
In 2018, he supported a federal ban for, I think, 20 weeks or something.
Watch is Fear News Network. They watch OAN. They watch, Steve Bannon. They watch all the shows that tell them everything they're going to hear in their same little bubble. They get no real information. They are told over and over again that Donald Trump is the second coming. He is perfect. He does absolutely nothing wrong. He is hurting no one. And those people, I don't think there's really any hope for them because they're not about to change up their news diet. They don't want to know the truth. But I think the uninformed voters, which I think includes the younger people, I think they are in for a rude awakening. Just like people were in for a rude awakening in 2016 and they ended up regretting it. And then we saw what happened in 2020 because it was the same electorate pretty much, right? Or it was at least young people who were old enough, who lived through Donald Trump's first term, that they understood what a danger he was. They understood the promises he made and broke about protecting them at schools and, helping financially and COVID and everything else. They were old enough to understand it. And we all saw it, we all lived through it, and that is why everybody kicked him out in 2020. But we are dealing with a completely different electorate now. Right? And I know there were something like 45% of the people who voted for him, or 45% of the Hispanic community voted for him last.
You just said he wasn't in favor of a ban. I told you when he was in favor of a ban, and now your new argument is, well, more Americans would support that.
Night, which was
what?
Unbelievable. I think they fall into the uninformed category. Some are misinformed, but some are uninformed. So they're in.
He did say he would put in a federal ban, or he would be in favor of a federal ban.
Have family here who are undocumented. I personally know some people who they may be younger generation, but they're older generation, their parents or their grandparents or both, or they have cousins or aunts and uncles who are undocumented. What is going to happen?
Yeah, live with it. Live with the responsibility. There you go. That's your consequences. So a child grows up fucking poor and malnourished and fucking abused and bouncing around from family member to family member. People want to take care of it. Sure.
If he follows the
and fucking Republicans won't even give a free lunch.
As he said on these mass deportations, and he starts rounding all of their family members up and shuttle.
It's not. When he says I would be in favor of a federal ban and he's president, that's not his personal opinion. That means if it comes, then he's going to fucking ban it.
Them out of the country. How are they going to feel, right? And guess what? It's on them. It is on you, Mr. and Mrs. Hispanic voter who thinks that Trump is a great guy, and he's just talking. He's not really going to do it. We saw it.
You can't say rape.
Saw it in 2016, 2017.
He gets the Twitch bots over here.
Policy. And how many people had their lives altered forever that will never be the same, right? I mean, it's going to happen. I guarantee it's going to happen. And one of Trump's people was just recently on a show, and they asked him, this is...
Oh, I want to see what Ron Macbeth just said. Hold on.
Does a Trump presidential victory mean for Ukraine? So there's a lot of components to this, and believe it or not, not all of them are bad. Now, to start, my background may look a little different here. I'm in San Francisco right now. I was just at the Aerosystems West headquarters. For those of you who don't know, I work for AeroMedLab, a company that uses AI-powered drones to deliver whole blood to wounded soldiers. It's some really cool tech. And we are an AI company, not a hardware company. So now that we have our third prototype platform, we should be ready to start testing with the Army by March, hopefully. So if you are an accredited investor, give me a call. We're looking to raise $1.6 million in pre-seed. Now, regarding President Trump and Ukraine, I think there are three factors that you have to take into consideration. The first factor is that President Trump claimed that he would make some kind of deal with President...
Adoption system's broken. Republicans won't fix it either.
Putin and President Zelensky within 24 hours of him taking office. Now, that's possible, but I don't think it's all that likely that they'll come to a deal. And here's why. Some people...
If you don't want an abortion, don't have an abortion. Don't take it away from other fucking people.
Said that the Ukraine deal will mean that the lines are frozen in place and Ukraine won't get back any of its lost territory. But believe it or not, that's not actually a deal that benefits Russia. And I've said this before, Russia needs all of Ukraine. And the reason is that Russia is not very defensible. Russia has this massive land border with Europe, and there's absolutely nothing, no mountains, no large rivers, just tundra between Europe and Moscow. So it's this natural invasion route. So you take Ukraine, and then you turn Ukraine into a client state, kind of like Belarus. And now you have the Carpathian Mountains in the east as a natural invasion barrier. Then you wait 5 years, 10 years, build up your forces again, then you take the Baltics, and then you take Poland. Once you take Poland and you turn it into a client state, you have the Sudetes Mountains to the south of Poland. And now, instead of defending this big, long border with Russia, you only have to defend like a 200-mile border. So Russia has not completed its objectives yet. They have no reason to come to a deal because they have to take Ukraine. This was never about Donetsk and Luhansk and people in Luhansk.
Oh, he's got 24 hours to make it happen. He would have the war in Ukraine wrapped up in 24 hours. Where's he at?
Not allowed to speak Russian anymore. This is about taking all of Ukraine to help start phase one of that defensive barrier. There's a second factor. Russia needs to be in perpetual state of war right now. Its economy is on a war footing. Literally everything Russia is producing is geared either towards making weapons or extracting oil from the ground to sell to China so they can get the hard currency to pay the workers to make the weapons. And if the war ends within 24 hours, Russia's economy collapses. President Putin knows this, and he knows that if their economy collapses, he will be ousted from power. Rule number one of being a dictator is to stay in power.
Yeah, so Putin's plan was never just to take Ukraine, right? And it never has been. He ran on rebuilding the former USSR. So he's not going to stop. He's not going to surrender where he's at. He's not going to shut down his fucking war machine right now. That's all they have going on.
Full stop. Now, not a lot of people know this, but the U.S. had like an 8-month-long recession in 1945 because we shifted from a wartime economy to a peacetime economy. All these soldiers were coming home. They were demobilized. And what kind of saved us from massive unemployment was the fact that the U.S. essentially became the exporter to the world after World War II because Europe and Asia, their factories were so devastated that they needed to buy goods from someone, and that someone was the United States. But that won't happen in Russia because Russia really doesn't sell anything to the world but oil and perhaps some raw materials. And there's a good portion of the world right now that won't buy from Russia regardless of their state because they've proven that Russia can't really be trusted. If you're buying raw materials and oil and such from Russia and then Russia starts another war, there goes your supplier of oil and raw materials, unless you're an ally like China. So the third factor here is that this war in Ukraine isn't about Ukraine. I've said this multiple times. The war in Ukraine isn't about Ukraine. It's about Taiwan. And President-elect Trump knows that China...
They're watching to see what happens with the U.S. And if the U.S. backs off, isn't interested in helping its allies, then China will be taking Taiwan.
China is a threat. China is likely to invade Taiwan in October of 2027 or April of 2028. October and April are realistically the only two weather windows, the only 2 months of weather windows where you can actually move war material across the Strait of Taiwan. And China's military will likely be ready to do that. In fact, they've been told to be ready to take Taiwan by force by 2027. Now, right now you might be saying, well, I care about Taiwan as much as I care about Ukraine. And if you're watching this on any device with a semiconductor, which is anything you're watching this on, you better start caring. About 92% of
We'll get those tariffs in place on semiconductors now.
the world's semiconductors, the world's high-end semiconductors that power the laptops that you're probably watching this on, are produced in Taiwan. Semiconductors today are the steel of World War II. Without semiconductors, you can't defend your nation, you can't power your economy. Do you want China
Countries are free to join NATO if they fucking want to.
to have control of that critical resource? So China knows that if we don't stand with Ukraine,
God, you're so far behind them. I love how you watch all the fucking right-wing talking heads and just say the things they say.
which has a freaking rail line connected with Poland that can bring in cargo, we certainly aren't going to stand with a country that is 6,100 miles or so away from the United States. So what I can see happening is that if President Putin rejects a deal, what we see next is Ukraine gets turned into a giant porcupine of American weapon systems. Because how dare you reject my deal? I think that could actually be a realistic scenario. There's another possibility, but I think an unrealistic scenario, that's some sort of deal where Russia gets to keep some of its gained territory, perhaps Donetsk and Luhansk, and then there's peacekeepers brought from Asia or South America on the Russian-Ukraine border for the next 4 years. Maybe, I mean, that worked in Egypt with the MFO, the Multinational Force Observers, and that's kept the peace between Egypt and Israel for years. But like I said, President Putin needs war to stay in power and avoid economic collapse. Because if the economy collapses, he will end up hung upside down outside a gas station or get a Ceausescu special from the military. So President Trump might want to broker peace, but peace isn't just an agreement on paper. It has to work for both sides. And right now, a stable Ukraine means something different to Russia, to the US, and to Europe. And in the end, President-elect Trump's victory could bring a lot of pressure to find a quick solution, but lasting peace is about more than signing paper. It's about stability, it's about strength, it's about deterrence. Ukraine, Taiwan, and democracy in general are worth standing up for. We're Americans. We're the good guys. And in today's world, stability doesn't just happen. It has to be built, it has to be defended, and sometimes it has to be fought for by the good guys. Thank you guys so much for watching.
In a world where fashion meets firepower, where style becomes strategy, it's time to gear up for the ultimate mission with Bucker Branding. Introducing the Rock Out With Your Chalk Out t-shirt. Air cavalry. Feel the adrenaline rush as you don the pride of the skies. For those of you who dare from the air, precision and power unite when you think outside the bomb. And don't miss our Live, Laugh, Launch t-shirts for Patriot High March, because sometimes defending freedom means bringing the thunder. Finally, for the true defender of the seas, we present Department of the Boat. Sail with honor and show your allegiance to the world's mightiest maritime force. With these shirts, hoodies, and stickers, along with the tow missiles, landmines, and drone warfare. These aren't just shirts, they're statements. They're your way of saying I stand for strength, unity, and style. Get yours at Bucker Branding today.
Doesn't look good for Ukraine. It doesn't look good for Ukraine. Like, Russia's not going to be happy. What Trump wants to do, I would say, is just everybody stop, right? Whatever you've taken, Ukraine pull back, and whatever land that Russia's already gathered, you can just have it, and we'll sign a peace treaty. That's not going to work for Russia. I know Trump thinks he's friends with Putin. He's not. Fucking Putin's using him as the goddamn tool bag he is. Yeah. It's not going to stop. It's not going to get better. I don't think that Trump has an out here. He said he'd fix it in 24 hours. He said within 24 hours, that would be fixed. Within 24 hours, Israel would be fixed. He also said multiple times before he was inaugurated, right, as president-elect, he'll fix them both. It doesn't seem like he's fixing any of that shit, right? It seems like we're just sitting here. It doesn't look good for Ukraine. That's all I can say right now is it doesn't look good for Ukraine. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. The Dark Brandon channel had a scathing review for
look at all
the MAGAs.
Proud Trump voters sitting there like you just discovered fire or basic literacy, but you backed a guy who could barely finish a sentence. But hey, neither can you. It's like the blind.
Hold on.
The feel when you're totally not pressed. The feel when we control your bodies. Hey, bitch. We control your bodies. Guess what? Guys win again, okay? Men win again. And yes, we control your bodies. Hi, I'm your Republican congressman. Hi, I'm your Republican congressman. It's your body, my choice. And men win again. Men win again. There will never, ever be a female president. Never. There will never be a
Republicans only care about babies when they're in the womb, right? As soon as they're born, fucking cut food stamps, cut free lunch, cut foster care payments, cut child tax credits, cut fucking everything. But then, when they can campaign on it, you're killing babies. Yeah, so are you. You're just starving them to death over years.
female president ever. It's over. Glass ceiling? Dude, it's a ceiling made of fucking bricks. You will never break it. Your stupid face keeps hitting the brick ceiling. We will keep you down forever. You will never control your own bodies. You will never be
Child poverty has been setting records over the last few years.
president of the global empire. Never gonna happen, sweetie. Your body, our choice.
That's some crazy shit, bro.
Our boy Nick Fuentes. Oh. Nick seems to be doing good. Can you not even search his name? Is he that banned on fucking TikTok? Yeah, nothing. Community guidelines. This phrase associated with hateful behavior. What about groypers? You can't do groyper? Jesus Christ. Rough out here on these streets, I guess. It's bad. Anyways, scathing review of the maggots.
Leading the blind, except the blind here are all wearing MAGA hats and screaming about fake news. A man who's on his third wife.
I just said you can't use the word rape.
Pay off a porn star and dodges taxes like it's a sport. That's your...
But he's Jesus's candidate, guys.
Role model. That's the guy you want your kids to look up to. Remember, Johnny, it's not lying if you just refuse to admit the truth. Parenting level genius. And don't even get me started on values. Do you remember January 6th? Yeah, your little cosplay revolution. You stormed the Capitol like it was the final boss in a video game, all while your fearless leader was watching from his golden throne, probably tweeting with one hand and eating a cheeseburger with the other. He didn't join you. He didn't lead you. He let you do all the dirty work while he sat back and laughed. You weren't patriots. You were pawns in his ego trip. And Roe versus Wade, oh, you're proud of that, aren't you? You cheered while your daughters lost their rights. But we're pro-life, you scream. Yeah, right up until the baby's born. Then it's good luck, kid. Hope you enjoy growing up in a country where a reality TV star sets the moral standards. You're not pro-life. You're pro-control. And you gave it to a man who's closer to Jeffrey Epstein than any of us are comfortable.
Oh, I take that back. They did try to advance a bill in 2018 that would provide more funding for adoption agencies that refuse to work with same-sex couples. So there's that.
Acknowledging, yeah, that's your guy. I barely knew him, with photos and flight logs, and now recordings that tell a very different story. And you still have the audacity to act like you're on some moral high ground. You supported a man found liable for sexual assault, a man who brags about grabbing women like it's sport. That's your hero. That's the guy you want shaping the future. Hey, little Timmy, respect women. Unless you're rich, then just go grab him by the... Oh, and now you're out here buying his shoes and his Bibles like that's going to get you closer to the promised land. Meanwhile, you're out here in the streets screaming that someone else is eating the pets. But look at yourselves. You've already swallowed every ounce of dignity and common sense. But we're owning the libs. Oh, you're owning something, all right. Your own self-respect. You're like a cult, but instead of drinking Kool-Aid, you're chewing up every ridiculous conspiracy and calling it patriotism. And you really think he's your savior? You act like he's your best friend. Newsflash, the only person Trump is friends with is Trump. You're not even his backup plan. He'd throw you under the bus faster than he'd sign another shady real estate deal. But here you are, defending him like he's the second coming of Lincoln, while he's out here playing golf and chumming it up with dictators and Epstein.
Some people call him the second Martin Luther King Jr.
wannabe. So let's be real. Trump just didn't con you. He branded you. You're walking around like a billboard, one of the biggest grifts in American history. You're not just drinking the Kool-Aid. You're bathing in it, bottling it, and selling it at your church potluck. Congratulations. You've become a product of the ultimate scam, and you don't even get a commission. Here's to you, Trump voters. The only thing bigger than his lies is your blind loyalty. You're not just marks in the cons. You're the ones funding it, sharing it, and somehow still thinking you're winning. Spoiler alert, you're not.
So one wheel, you guys know I'm passionate about one wheel. Actually, when the winter hits and Mariah's not riding the one wheel as much, the one wheel pint, I'm going to Vesca, I think, and I'm going to probably do all that. I want to get, if I can, I want to slowly move into like building some different electric vehicles. And one of them's put a Vesk, which is just like an open source controller on Mariah's pint and getting it going. So that'll be fun. But they came out with a new product today. They came out with the XR Classic, I think is what they're calling it. So they just did away with the XR last year.
Buy one before they drop it. That'll be fun.
Oh, that's okay.
That's how we find it.
Here.
Oh, it's a minute and a half long. That's it? A minute and a half?
Let's go.
Ricky.
Range, 30% more. Right height, lowered for stability. Up 6 inches for more cush. Safety features, state-of-the-art. Light bar, sure. Rail, blue, obviously. 2 sick rail choices straight from the factory. We're doing it. Oh yeah, and we brought back optional wood foot pads.
Drivetrain, it says right there. Oh, there you go. There you go.
18 out of swing.
Oh, I was wrong.
I want to see if they got one.
For my heel when
It's literally a point. Again, we're back.
Why did they do that? That's gonna be sharp on my heel. That's gonna be.
No, that's up.
That's gonna be.
But,
well, we don't know that.
I want to see what they think about it.
Excited of performance and whatnot, and orders it today, and it comes tomorrow.
1900, 2200, we knew that. 30% more range than the original XR. They don't say anything about the weight, do they? It's 30. You think it's the same as GT, or you think it's the same as Pint?
It's kind of, this is a GT alternative, so anything they can do to match the GT, they're gonna do.
Yeah, what I'm curious about
now.
They've got plenty in stock, right? How many do they have in inventory?
10. Worst case, we go.
Oh, they only have 10 in inventory right now?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna update that.
Well, yeah.
Really be good for tricks.
Be able to do.
I want to see, did they get it or no? Oh, there it
That's
is.
a good offering.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on
Even a new.
I want to see somebody with it. Hold on.
I think the PCB is very possible they keep the same.
Yeah, if you can make a controller box that fits.
Introducing the one wheel XR Classic.
We're bringing back the GOAT.
Let's go.
We've already tried that. Marita, they don't give a fuck. They don't even respond most of the time.
In order to bring back a legend, you have to start at the beginning. This one
He's being inaugurated on MLK Day. Yes, perfect.
started here, with the dream of building a magical way to move through the world. But it wasn't until the XR that it went from the garage dream to, well, everywhere. Wherever it went, good times followed. People freaking loved it. We even got kind of extreme. But there's always been writers that miss the good old days. Reimagined, the XR Classic. We took 10 years of design and baked everything into the best all-around board. The Goldilocks XR form factor? Check. The tire? The best we've ever made. Internals? Revamped for more power. Range? 30% more. Ride height? Lowered for stability. Hub?
What did it say about power?
Power. Range? 30 power.
Oh, it doesn't show anything. It just says more power.
More. Ride height? Lowered for stability. Hub? 6 inches for more cush. Safety features? State-of-the-art. Light bar? Sure. Rail? Blue, obviously. 2 sick rail choices straight from the factory. We're doing it. Oh yeah, and we brought back optional wood foot pads. Say hello to the brand new good old days with XR Classic. Future tech meets old school fun.
It's pretty sweet. I think it's right around $2,000, like $1,918. Let's see. XR Classic, shop today. It's on an introductory price for $1,900. But I think they said within 48 hours they're raising it. This is like a pre-order or big push for like the launch or whatever. Where are all their boards? What are the prices of all their boards? They get stupid expensive. All right. GTS starts at $2,900. GT starts at $2,300. XR Classic $1,900. Pine S $1,400. Pint X $1,100. Pint $750. God, those fucking things are expensive. Man, if they could have one that they could get out the door for like 500 to 1,000 was like their range instead of fucking some of them like 2,000, 3,000. I mean, they got the pint down to 750, I guess, but it only has 6 to 8 miles of range, and that's in perfect conditions, right? If you're heavier, if you're going uphill, if you get wheel slippage, whatever, then you're probably cutting that in half more realistically. So 3 to 4 miles of range. The Pint X and Pint S are 12 to 18, which really means 6 to 9. This one goes all the way up to 24, so that would be 8 to 16 on the Classic. I would love to have a fucking GTS. I want the Rally Edition, too. That's even more expensive. I think it's like $3,200. Don't they have it here? Yeah, there's the Rally Edition. 6-inch performance shredded, 6-inch hub, recurve rails from the factory. $3,200 fucking dollars. $3,300? I can't even remember. The ultimate off-road setup. It looks pretty sick, though. $113 volts on the GTS, 75 volts on the GT. The controller I've got will go up to 150 volts, 100 amp output, continuous output. I've got a Vesmerized board. I don't know. What do you guys think? I didn't get to watch the rest of this. There's been a couple of Doomer streams going on. Not great. I'd be afraid to ride one. They did kill a bunch of people, so there's that. There was like a lawsuit before they put in haptic buzz, like the safety commission or whatever made them put in like the haptic buzz and shit on it because people were just fucking dying. Is the latest board really worth the hype? I don't know. Let's see if Luke's still crying. Man, he had a rough couple days.
We are just mere days away from one of those consequential elections in...
Oh, this is before the election. Sorry, my bad. I wanted something more recent. That was his recent popular videos, those recent videos.
One of
a resurfaced Trump video you must see.
But Trump does so in a particularly corrosive, damaging, and dishonest way, is making big promises that they have no intention of following through on. In saying things for campaign purposes that they could not manifest once they actually have the power to govern. And again, Trump does this, a phenomenon that a lot of politicians engage in, to an extent that we've never seen before. One of the promises that he made was that he would end the war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, in 24 hours. And he even indicated that he'd do it starting when he got elected, not even taking over as president. And it's going to be so important, among all of the other things we're going to be doing, to keep an eye on, as Trump said in his victory speech, promises made, promises kept, promises made, and then what happened with them. Because he's made some gargantuous statements in this campaign. And one of the thousands or millions of ways we're going to demonstrate...
Basically, everything I remember him saying, he wasn't able to fucking get done.
To people, they made the wrong choice.
And now he's even saying that he had no intentions of doing away with Obamacare. He never wanted to do away with it. That was a lie.
And we need to correct course as soon as we can, whenever electorally given the option, is showing just how wrong his campaign was in its bold statements like this one. This particular clip is resurfacing, and it's because people are making this point.
I would fix that within 24 hours. And if I win, before I get into the office, I will have that war settled. 100% sure.
So you'll hear other clips in a second as we go through this of him saying, once I get into the Oval Office. But right now, you just heard him say that if I get elected, by the time I'm inaugurated, it's going to be quote-unquote settled. And we'll talk about what it seems he means by that and what his advisors are in talks about already.
As president-elect, if I win this election, the first thing I'm going to do is call up Zelensky and call up President Putin, and I'm going to say, you got to make a deal. This is...
As president-elect, the first thing he's going to do.
So often, just like with so many things, if it fits on a bumper sticker, people eat it up without diving into the nuances. So when he says, make a deal or get peace, but can't specify how, we know what he means. Give Russia what they want. Ukraine, you got to deal with it. That's what he's actually advocating for. And while people think peace by itself is what's being pursued, just peace is what is being pursued. Here's another example.
I would tell Putin...
I should say, not by Donald Trump. What should be pursued is just peace. But he's pursuing just end it so that it can start right back up when Russia decides it wants more.
I would tell Putin, you got to settle. I would tell Zelensky, you got to settle. I would tell one, you're going to load up with money. I tell the other, you're not going to get any money. I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
That's as specific as we've heard from him. That he's going to call up.
Gotta settle. One of you are going to get a bunch of money. One of you are not going to get any money.
Apparently he should have done this by now because he said 24 hours. Even when elected, I'll start calling them. And what is he going to say? Gotta settle. Gotta settle. This is who America chose to be its president. Something you'll hear me say quite a lot over the coming years. than this.
I would have a deal done in 24 hours from the time we started. And I would tell Zelensky something, and I would tell Putin something, and I'd get him into a room, and I'd tell him again and again. I would have a deal done very quickly.
I can't tell you what I would say to him, but I would say it to him.
So I'm assuming he really meant 24 hours by the time he's inaugurated, but he did mention that he would do it as the first thing once he's even just elected, because he had the power of being the president-elect. But we are getting reporting on what does this even mean. Trump advisors are laying out plans on how to end the war in Ukraine, and for the best we can tell from the reporting that we have thus far, it's let Russia keep what it has now of Ukraine's. They currently occupy.
Exactly. And any territory held by Ukraine, they're going to have to pull out. Russia gets to keep what it's already taken, but that's not going to work for Russia.
Roughly 20% of Ukraine, and then create a demilitarized zone of 800 miles. And then in exchange for continuing giving U.S. weapons to Ukraine, they would have them promise to not even engage in any talks about joining NATO for at least 20 years. So again, setting up, let's give Russia what they occupy after invading it. Then let's sit and wait, as Ukraine is just as vulnerable as they were before, for Russia to strengthen itself, to recover from the war, and to go for more. We saw how not really reacting very strongly ended in Crimea. We've seen how this is a part of a broader goal, and at some point it's going to have to be stopped, but that doesn't seem to be Trump's intentions whatsoever. You also have CNN reporting Ukraine is forced to confront reality that hope would never happen. And essentially, just to summarize, they were hoping this wouldn't happen, they knew that it was a possibility, and now there's a lot of dread. Because while it's not certain, we don't know exactly what Trump's going to do, it's certain that it's not going to be as rational as what Biden has been doing. We know that MAGA would eat Trump alive if he was as supportive of Ukraine.
I want to cover some other stuff for a while. Maybe some projects that I'm working on or something. I don't know. Maybe take a longer kick of just streaming a couple times a week, and for patrons, and then do some stuff on TikTok. I don't know.
Of Ukraine as Biden, because MAGA has this disdain.
We're just burnt out, man. We've been doing this since fucking before 2020, right? Before 5-6 years.
Tragically. And this is just one more example. There are all of these domestic reasons that a Trump victory was what we worked so hard to prevent and failed. Why it was so bad that so many people chose this, but they did. And those domestic reasons are going to be at the center of our coverage every day. But then, internationally, democracy globally is hindered by this. And democratic nations globally are terrified by this. We will keep following it. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. I know it's hard. I know it is. But we are going to do everything to make the content informative that we do. And also, I'm trying to think of ways in what could be a very dark era to still have fun here and there and still provide you content that makes you smile and laugh.
There you go. Luke, he seems like he's still a little bit upset. He's still a little bit upset. I want to see this last one. Pierce Morgan.
Of mine that has emerged since I've been asked on occasion, and I've gone on twice, but am asked relatively frequently to go on the Piers Morgan show. And since then, I've, of course, started paying attention more to Piers Morgan because of that. And it has, like I said, created a curiosity as to why he's gone so full MAGA. He is just all the way in.
100%.
Now. And then that secret as to what brought him from never being liberal, to be clear, of course, but he's had a notable shift where now in the most cartoonish of ways he is defending Trump. It kind of has been clearly revealed, I think, embodied by this post, him posting after Trump's win. Just spoke to President Trump and congratulated him on the greatest comeback in political history. He sounded understandably weary, but also utterly elated by the massive scale of his victory. This is quite something, right, Piers? Yes, Donald, it is. And people responded to that, like Mehdi Hassan, by posting a screenshot of an op-ed that Piers Morgan wrote on January 7th, 2021. If Trump can't be trusted to tweet, this is Piers Morgan, he can't be trusted with the nuclear codes. He's lost his mind, and America needs to get this dangerous, deluded, despicable lunatic out of the White House now. How do you go from that to being the pro-Trump person that Piers Morgan now is? Which is why he's so upsetting. Because he pretends, no, I'm not.
I don't know, because we thought it was fun. I honestly have no idea, but it sounds fun.
I'm not for anyone against it. I'm just a nonpartisan journalist. I'm just taking the facts as they come. No, that's not true. And this was definitely something that I was reminded of whenever I appeared with him saying stuff like this.
All of you. Dave Rubin, I thought this McDonald's stunt by Trump was an absolute slam dunk. In fact, I called it in a New York Post column I found today, probably the best political stunt I've ever seen. On two levels, I argued. One is that it highlighted...
Okay, and you heard this before, so I'll move on from that clip. But he did get on asking me about it. That was his setup for a question about Dave Rubin. As a reminder, I said this.
Let me bring in Luke. You want to get in?
Yeah. Well, I will say that MAGA has been repeatedly expressing that they're upset that Kamala is having these fun moments. Oh, she's laughing. We have to stop dancing. There's serious problems. So a little bit of hypocrisy there. But we'll say this McDonald's thing is the perfect example of how Trump gets away with what he does. Because a bunch of people in the media play right into what he's doing, which I agree. A fun little photo op at McDonald's. A lot of people are going to find that likable. Ignoring the actual substance, which is he gets asked about the minimum wage. He can't answer it. Because on policy, he's a failure.
He gets asked about minimum wage. So after you've worked, 30 minutes in a McDonald's, would you consider raising minimum wage? And he just goes to the next question. He doesn't even answer at all.
So he has to rely on these sorts of stunts to get people to like him. The media finds it so fascinating, so they forget days before the election what really matters.
But to be clear, you just said he sounded like it.
I don't find him super likable, but I understand why a photo shoot like this appeals to people. That's exactly what he's trying to do. Distract from the fact that the day before election he's promising to go after his political enemies with his enemies from within sort of comment. Distract from the fact that he's the most anti-democratic presidential candidate we've seen in distract from the fact that hundreds of economists are saying that Trump's plan would harm the economy.
Larry,
so the thing that we're exploring today and in the coming days is how did this Trump victory happen? And before getting back to why, at the core of why Piers Morgan has shifted so far right as he has, or at least so pro-Trump, but in why Trump won, the big reason I gave you, that I think is the most consequential reason, is this pandemic era anti-incumbency sort of backlash that we've seen across the Western world. And that if you want to pick one primary driver, but there's this big, complicated web of reasons, as many of you have been suggesting to me. And one of them is that our media is failing. And that makes it, to be honest, I don't want to make this about me, I've been trying not to bring this part up too often, but that makes it that much more heartbreaking that people across shows like mine, left of center pro-democracy shows.
Wait, now I want to do it.
So if you feel like this show is valuable, I do encourage you to subscribe. But the mainstream media is failing, which makes what we're doing that much more important. Which makes
Now I timed you out.
Thank you.
For tapping in chat.
Morgan is not even the most influential example of this, but man, he's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Someone who tells the world,
It did feel good.
I'm not taking a side on anything, I'm objective journalist over here. But then he finds it more relevant to spend the final days before that election talking about, oh my God, the McDonald's done it. It was so perfect, I want to cry. He has now circled back to that over and over. Do you not find it relevant to talk about the things I listed there? The monumental reasons he shouldn't have been elected, the tragic reasons that he was. So when a bunch of people like Piers Morgan are out there misleading people, not necessarily overtly, but often overtly, but by pretending what they're delivering is fact, pretending they're giving an objective take, but leading people to believe certain things are more.
I think Piers Morgan is more dangerous because he pretends to be on the left, but just this guy that's like, oh, well, you know, Trump could do all right. And I think people are overreacting when he says this because he really meant, again, translators for the guy that's going to be the most powerful fucking man in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Important, not inform people on certain sets of facts, sometimes, very often, overtly misleading people on what facts are. And that is one of the reasons that we're getting Trump again. And it's horrifying. Just as another example of Piers Morgan missing the mark. Here's this.
You go ahead there, why?
Yeah. What is this bizarre thing that MAGA is trying to force onto Americans, this collective amnesia? So this was when Larry Elder had just wrapped up, as I've shown you, talking about the higher prices and affordability problems and things to that effect. We were in the middle of the pandemic 4 years ago. Yes, we're better off. And the very problems that people cite to argue against the economic success of Biden-Harris are the numbers that are a direct outcome. Be just a little bit honest for a moment, Dave and Larry, are a direct outcome.
I don't think the translation was great. I wonder if it was Biden with so if Biden ran, if he would have won.
Of pandemic conditions. If you can't accept that, if you can't accept that Trump was making deals with Saudi Arabia and Russia to cut oil production, that caused the spike going into Biden. If you can't accept that Trump gave to Biden a crime spike, an economic collapse, a public health disaster, then you're not critically engaging with the
All their babies are blue.
last few years. So yes, we're better off if we got out of crisis.
Well, there's so much.
And then Dave Rubin goes on to make the point that I've shown you when I reviewed this. I don't want to do a whole another 30-minute segment on it. But Piers Morgan goes on after Dave Rubin says, well, people feel like they should blame Biden-Harris for the things that were globally taking place because of pandemic conditions, exacerbated by Trump's mishandling of the pandemic, but handled actually effectively under Biden-Harris, comparatively. And Piers, instead of going, wait, MAGA, how do you respond to that, actually? Are we misleading people about this? I remember him saying, as I don't have the clip pulled up, but he ends up saying, well, actually, I don't think you addressed Dave's point. I just explained to you comprehensively the causes of his point. Yeah, I definitely addressed it. So I play those for you because more and more moments like that one where I'm thinking, what? When I
20, 30,000 viewers in no time, I'm sure.
That by MAGA's logic, Harris could block the certification.
He's probably already got them.
That's been made very clear, of course. But by their logic, what they said Pence has the ability to do back when he was vice president, when Trump didn't want to leave office, then Harris could block Trump's certification right now. That's their logic because she's the VP. And Piers again went, nah, actually, let's address something else. Dick Cheney, what about him? So yeah, whenever that's an example of your centrist, nonpartisan journalist, people are going to be really misled. So we can't hope media gets better. We have to make our own platforms, which a lot of people out there are doing really great work in making happen. So then to go all the way back to what's the secret, which is not much of a secret really, but as to why Piers Morgan is now saying this, just spoke.
And people couldn't relate that, like, the economy was already better, right? Inflation was lower. Fucking unemployment was super fucking low. But every time they polled Americans, they were still in this mentality that the economy was fucking falling apart.
President Trump, as I read to you, and him congratulating him and talking with Trump personally, after he was previously at that. Trump is despicable and a lunatic. Short attention span or bad memory, as collectively Americans have shown themselves to be subjected to. Yeah, people forgot somehow what Trump did. But that post about Trump and him being able to talk to Trump personally.
Now Trump's going to be the oldest president.
Him having access to power. That's it. He, at some point, started to become worried that Trump was going to get back into power. And so instead of doing what so many out there do, which is choose principle over power.
He wanted to get on the right side because at some point he thought Trump can do this again. He seems to have, this enthusiasm behind him. He's probably going to beat Biden because Biden was the candidate at the time. I think that's, he wants to play both sides, right? He wants to make sure Trump will come on with him. He wants to make sure Trump will talk to him. He wants to make sure that he appears impartial and he doesn't want to be the guy that fucking stood his ground or his morals, even though he sold out for the money, right?
He chose power over principle. Not to mention that he thinks his niche, how he's going to get views as he built an online platform, is in the MAGA echo chamber. And so he's leaned into it. And it is going to be disturbing to see.
And MAGA can point to him and say, look, well, at least this guy on the left isn't a lunatic. He knows Trump's good for the country.
To defend Trump throughout his presidency. But that's the reason. He was scared he'd lose relevance and access to power if he stood on principle. And it's not that he was the most rational person out there before this, but it's that how overt he's become in his pro-Trump advocacy, how seemingly blinded to the facts he is. something that the reason I'm singling him out, because so many people are like that, is because I do think he's indicative of a larger problem, and because I engage with his platform more frequently than a lot of others. And it comes down to that. I want to be able to call Trump personally. I want to have a niche. I want to have access to power. And it's talk about despicable. And then this does serve, as I said, as the perfect example of what is so wrong with our media. People who pretend to be nonpartisan, unbiased journalists who are anything but that.
I think Trump picked up younger votes just by going on some of those crazier streams. I think it was below the president to go on these crazy racist fucking like live streamers, but he picked up votes from it.
And
I think
why shameless, overt advocacy for democratic American principles is admirable. And I do ask that you support that in this show or others, whichever ones you find to be valuable. Share with me your thoughts in the comments. I do appreciate all the feedback we've been getting, and so many of you are so kind in this rather turbulent time.
All right, guys. I was planning on going longer, but I kind of need to wrap up and go check on the internet at the house. So cell phone towers are still really weird or maybe destroyed during the flooding. I don't know. So the only way that we have contact with the world is through Wi-Fi, and Mariah says the Wi-Fi has been going out. So I told her I wouldn't stay on as long as I planned and get out of here and go check on it. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with me. Please consider supporting the show or the campground. Those would both be great. They both benefit me in some way. You do that Cold Red Hot Fund, that'd be great. Still fighting with unemployment. Still doing my thing, trying to get my disability fixed. I didn't expect to be fucking jobless, homeless, communityless over a day, so we'll see. Maybe I'll show the clip where I actually talked on the news, and they're like, what are you guys doing to prepare for this flood? And I was like, I don't think it's going to be that bad. We moved the picnic tables, we moved the fire pits, but it won't be that bad. Then the next day, they're like, horrific flooding, hundreds dead. I can show you that clip sometime. Anyways, thanks for the support. Thanks for sticking it out with me. I don't know. I'm exhausted, to be honest with you. We'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good night. Love to see you. Bye. Somebody time out that guy for good measure.
This douchebag happens to see this particular show.
I'm afraid he thinks we forgot about him already.
Balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best.
I'm in enemy territory here as well, dude. You ought to see all the crazy people on fucking Facebook. God made this election happen. It's time to bring the Bible back. Have you guys met Trump? Like, he doesn't embody anything about Christianity. What? Anything about, I mean, he says it, but that's about it. That's about as far as it goes. Fuck, Jesus was an immigrant. What's your favorite Bible verse? That's very personal. I don't want to say. Old Testament or New Testament? 50-50.
Fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet.
Fuck New Jersey.
Started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't.
See you guys.
I used to find clues too when I was.
Send me some money. I'm going broke over here, guys. Have a good night.
Open his closet, I